Hello, my name's Jeff. I'm going to show you a bit about the brand new Rhinestones product. It has a lot of unique features for people that work with rhinestones. So let's take a look at it here. I'm just going to launch it from the toolbar here, little icon there. And as you can see, one of the things we wanted to do very early on was to be able to see actual rhinestones on the artwork. We'll go through some of these different tabs of features that are available in the product here. So the first thing you might be wondering about is, well, how do we even begin using this? Well, we could just draw a simple line, for example, like that, and just choose a stone with a certain diameter there. And very quickly, it's not blending them to a path or anything like that. It actually is, putting them along the curvature that way I'd quickly draw in there. So very quickly you can have, various spacing. And if we zoom in on it, you can see that it looks like rhinestones. So during the design process, you're working with something that's going to be a lot more realistic, so that your end result will reflect what you're designing. So let's have a look at some of the other features there. Right there, we were just looking at how it can follow a certain path very quickly. I'm just going to create some quick shapes here like this, just to show you how that works. I'm just going to weld them together into one piece like that. Simply choose a diameter. You could choose a color, for example. And very quickly, it's put rhinestones around that shape. So we've got some control point options there. I'm going to check that, and let's try that again there. And it should have rhinestones at those tips of the shape there, like it did this time that we didn't do the last time around. So as you can see, it's a very fast way to work with rhinestones using actual colors from the, I think, Swarovski catalog there. Alright, so that's the first basic tab of this macro, and we can go in and work on actual stones. You can sort by certain diameters, certain colors, and a different series. This is a particular series from that manufacturer, but it that gives you some quick insight into working with actual stones that you could actually purchase later on. So let's go over to the next tab and see what features lie there. Alright, so on the next tab here we've got the ability to fill shapes. What I'm going to do is just move this shape out of the way there, get rid of those stones that are there. And if we were to just click on the button there, it's asking me to select one stone from the catalog. I'm just going to choose one of the colors here like this. And it's calculating and it's filled that area using the horizontal shift pattern. And what that means is that you can see how every second row is offset a little bit to make it look more naturally filled. So we were using a very large stone there. I'm just going to undo that last action, and let's pick a much smaller stone in diameter, something like that one. Let's see what that does. So it's going to fit in a lot more stones into that space, something like that. And if we were to just give it a backing color for a second, give it black, you can see how it's did that offset. If you wanted to completely fill an area, just so you know what that looks like, you could change the distance to, I believe we could even try 0. If we went to 0 for the second area, there's a small amount there for offset, but let's try that one out and see what that gives us. There we go. So you can see that's very tightly packed those stones into that area. Now that would be fairly expensive to do, but it's a possibility there for you. Alright, so that's one of the fill patterns there. Let's try something like, I'm just going to weld those shapes together, see what other options are in here. Island fill is quite interesting. I'm going to give that a shot. And what that did was it kind of goes around the border, for example, like that. So that could be quite handy in some cases. Alright, let's head on over to middle line fill. Let's see what that does. And let's create something like a I'm just going to type a letter J like that, converting it to curves. And you can see how it filled that shape. And by the way, this product has its own built-in centerline functionality. It's not using Corel's centerline tracing capability. It's all built in here. So as you can see how that worked out pretty good. Let's try something more complicated, like let's say a letter A, for example, where it has the shape there in the middle. Let's see what that does. Not too bad. You can definitely see that it did a letter A there for us very quickly. And doing a center line on any shape isn't as easy as it might seem. But one thing this macro can also do, which is quite interesting, middle line with fill. You can see on the little button here how it can go from small to large to small. Well, let's see what we're talking about with that here. One of the most unique things about this macro is that its ability to fill areas like this that have thin and thick areas at the same time. I don't think there's any other product in the world at any price that can do this. So just to show you what that does is I'll select the shape, click on the icon. And what I've done beforehand is select multiple stones in a certain color that will fill that area, such as that. So as you can see, it's filled the area with the most appropriate size stone. Let's zoom in on that a bit. And you can see how it went from small to large in the center area of the stone there. So that's pretty cool. Alright, so let's have a look at some of the other features in this product. One of the options is for the macro to automatically choose the correct color of stone for an area. Right now I've got some clip art that I brought in, and so it's all vector shapes here at the moment. And I've set it to choose the stone by the right color for the right area. So to give you an idea what that would look like, it would look like this. So it's converted the vector shape into rhinestones using the correct color. So what if we were to also want to see what that looks like against a background texture? One of the ideas I had was to quickly be able to bring in a background texture so you could see how it looks. And what we have there is, if we go to the Tools menu, we could choose various background textures and colors. This would be like black denim, for example, blue denim, and we can change the scaling of the pattern there a little bit. So if we wanted to look, depending on the size of the shape that we're dealing with. So let's have a look there. Let's just zoom in on that for a second. So I don't know if you've ever seen anything like this before, but what could be easier for working with rhinestones than seeing a real result right before your eyes with a correct texture in the background? It gives you a much more realistic representation of what your final job will be looking like. Alright, so that's some examples there. We could also go to, there's a few more patterns in here, such as brown leather, etc., etc. So just some ideas there for you to think about for some of the capabilities of this very powerful macro for working with rhinestones. But we're not done there. Like if we have a simple design, I'm just going to start fresh here. Let's say just going to create a little shape there like that. And we'll just give it a little bit of curvature here. Let's go back to some straight lines. So let's just put in some rhinestones there. We could just simply select that shape, and if we go to the production menu, we also have the ability to do a quick printout where the stones actually have a number in each stone, and there's a legend below there showing what stone is being used for that pattern. So it could be quite handy for production staff later on. So that's that idea, and if you're always wondering what things are going to be costing you, there's a fairly interesting setup here for working with costs of stones, labor per stone, fixed design price, things like that, and so that you can eventually get a quote on the job at hand. So you can export your prices from our stone catalog. Just to give you an idea, if we go into one stone here, you can see how you can edit prices here. Right now it's a 0. But for quicker editing, one of the ideas I had was to export this to a CSV file. You can bring that into Excel, adjust all of your pricing for the stone catalog, and then import that back into the product here so that you have your accurate pricing. We also have the ability to not only work with vector shapes for filling them, but you can also work with bitmaps as well. Let's take a look at that. The macro has the ability to convert bitmaps into rhinestones. I've put in a color in the background there just to make it easier for me to select that color later and to delete it. But here's a couple of low resolution examples. If we look on the next page, I've put it into a background against a black denim texture there. We can zoom in on it and take a look. And of course the quality of artwork will really depend on what you have available. The macro allows you to select stones by the same color. For example, if I wanted to select all the stones with this particular shade, I would simply press one of those stones, choose by same color, click on this icon there, and it's selected all those stones. So I could try a different tint very easily just by selecting another stone, pressing this button, and now it's going to drop that different shade in there, just like that. Just to give you an idea of some of the great power available in rstones. That concludes our initial look at rstones, a great new product for CorelDRAW, and I hope you enjoyed the quick demonstration.